I'm ahead of the curve, aka James Bergman, and in this week's review, I will be discussing Irvin Yalom's Love's Executioner, which was first published in 1989. Reading this book was actually an unexpected occasion, since this was given to me by a psychotherapist, and one that I was sort of working with or in the same place as, and they just said, yeah, you have to read Yalom. His books are brilliant on psychotherapy, on the subject of psychology, and yeah, they actually gave me this book, and very, very kind of them. I'm always up for book recommendations or people giving me books. That is one of the best presents ever. So yeah, I got stuck into reading this one, and it is really, really good. I think that this book has a lot of unique perspectives in it, and especially as Yalom is a qualified, I think, yeah, he's an existentialist psychoanalyst or therapist, I think his title is. But he clearly has a lot of experience behind what he says, and that does show in his writing and his methods and approaches of psychotherapy for his patients. And to break down what this book is actually about for anyone who doesn't already know, this book is basically a collection of non-fictional tales of patients that Yalom has had in his psychotherapeutic years. And so there are about 10 different cases, I believe, and one of them takes the title of Love's Executioner, which is let me see here. Yeah, the first story takes the title, and for no particular reason. It's probably just because the name itself is quite catchy, I imagine. This book also had some relevant context, considering that I've just started my university placement in working for the NHS, where there are psychotherapists and actual therapy sessions going on. So this book is particularly relevant to what I'm doing right now. And yeah, I thought I'd just fast track reading this because I'm starting off in this new kind of job or placement, whatever you want to call it. And I thought I'd probably, read it to make sure that I've got some sort of advantage, as opposed to if I hadn't read it and hadn't picked up some things that I didn't already know. And yeah, this book kind of came to me in the right kind of time. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I would recommend this to anyone who is interested in psychology, therapy, or if you're unaware of how therapy works, or and the thing is as well, this book is quite easy to read, but at the same time, it does actually talk about very deep things. I mean, some of these patients have experienced death anxiety, sexual issues, for example, with partners, and this does go through group therapy and one-to-one therapy. So many different sort of styles of therapy are referenced, and philosophers and other psychologists, Carl Rogers, Friedrich Nietzsche, Freud, so many influential thinkers are referenced throughout in context to the cases. And I quite liked that the author sort of is aware of that, and he actually strings things together like he did. With that said, though, I do think that some stories aren't as interesting as others. But to be honest, I find that with most collections of, even if it's like short stories, fiction or non-fiction, I find that, and as you guys will probably agree, there are just some stories that gravitate more towards the reader. Like The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. That's a good book on neuroscience, cases from aphasia patients and so on. And that's by Oliver Sacks, by the way. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that book, but there were some stories that I just wasn't interested in. When it comes to this book, I did find every story to be relatively interesting, some much more than others, but at the very least, it was interesting. So Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and it's kind of weird because obviously I talk a lot about philosophy and literature on this channel, and I haven't really talked much about books that are on psychology. Now, I have a bit, but not really in comparison to how much I talk about philosophical things. And I suppose that when I do talk about philosophy on this channel, I kind of do integrate psychology there, but I would like to talk about more psychology books. Now, the only problem with psychology books, I guess, in terms of enjoyment, is that it can be a lot more dry than philosophy. Although I say that now, and I'm kind of backtracking. I mean, what I mean to say is that it's hard to find a writer of psychology who is as poetic as Nietzsche or is as crippling as Dostoevsky. So yeah, I want to review more psychology books, and if you guys have any recommendations for any books that are good in the name of psychology, then let me know. But yeah, I want to try and do that if I can. Considering, as I said, I'm studying psychology at university. I'm on my placement year, working now in that sort of area, and I kind of want for my benefit as well, because as I said before, I want to sort of be well, educated in psychology as much as I can, as well as literature and philosophy and whatever other interests I might have that you guys have picked up on. Yeah, so a bit of rambling, but I did want to share some quotes that I quite enjoyed throughout this piece. So here we go. We know about death. Intellectually, we know the facts. But the unconscious portion of the mind that protects us from overwhelming anxiety has split off or dissociated the terror associated with death. We psychotherapists simply cannot cluck with sympathy and exhort patients to struggle resolutely with their problems. We cannot say to them, you and your problems. Instead, we must speak of us and our problems, because our life, our existence, will always be riveted to death, love or loss, freedom or fear, growth to separation. We are, all of us, in this together. There is a barrier between image and language. The mind thinks in images, but to communicate with another, we must transform image into thought, and then thought into language. That march from image to thought to language is treacherous. Casualties occur, the rich, the fleecing texture of image, its extraordinary plasticity and flexibility, its private nostalgia, emotional hues, all are lost when image is crammed into language. So yeah, I thought I'd share my fairly brief thoughts on this collection of psychotherapeutic stories by Yalom. I do want to read more by him. I believe he has a book on death to some extent. I've heard that's pretty good, but to be fair, all of his books look quite interesting. So if any of you guys have read his books, which ones would you recommend me reading? As always, I've been ahead of the curve, and I will see you in the next video. Au revoir.